Okay. The webinar has started and we're recording and we're waiting for the room to populate a bit. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Dr. Laurie.
Good morning. Good morning. So we have a lot of participants entering the room. Good morning, everyone. I'm Laurie Vinocor, president of the Alliance of Delray Residential Association. Well, has been a difficult month for us. Yes, for having to go from in person back to a Zoom, but hopefully next month we will be back in the Civic Center. But it was just way too busy there with cars going in, and we would only be able to use a portion of the parking lot, even though we could have the whole inside auditorium, but it was just too difficult. And also having a large possible spreader event wouldn't be good for everybody. So it should be much better by next month. Our driver's courses, though, we are bringing them into communities when they would like them, and we're booked through March. So if you'd like your community to have a mature driver's course for insurance, a little deduction from your insurance, it would be good to have that, and also to learn about all the ways we can really be safer drivers, especially here in South Palm Beach County. We've been very busy this month with lots of development issues, and the self-storage fueling stations at the corner of Military Trail Atlantic Avenue, right there where the Big Apple Bazaar is, that has been postponed. It was going to go to the zoning commission this Thursday, and it's been postponed. And we're working on getting a better, less intense project. We're working with our communities, and High Point, we're very concerned that not just High Point, who's adjacent to it, but also for our traffic issues that we have. And we've had some issues with DOT. We're helping our communities. There's some strange turns coming out of the new development at the corner of Hagen Ranch and Atlantic Avenue. We're working on that along with our sheriff's station too. And of course, the agricultural reserve, we always like to hear your input on that. There's going to be a lot of community discussion and a lot of community input before other things happen and changes are made, of course, to any agricultural reserve master plan. Everything is in our newsletter, so please read the newsletter. And it also comes on our emails too. Getting right into this, we have a wonderful program today with Joshua Gerstin, and this is so timely about COVID and also legislative updates. So we start out with our Lieutenant Morales, and I'm going to spotlight Lieutenant Morales to give us an update. There you go.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
First off, Captain San is out on vacation. He'll be back next week. So he wanted me to say hello to everybody on his behalf. Us too at PBSO, we've made some changes due to the rising COVID numbers. We've gone back to phase 2 here. And what that means is our lobby's closed to the public. However, we're still operating. There's 3 ways to get a hold of the sheriff's office. If it's an emergency, obviously call 911. If it's a non-emergency, you can use our non-emergency number at 688-3400. And of course, our website at www.pbso.org has all the information you would need. For an example, if you needed to get a report or a case number, the instructions are on there for you to do that. As for the testing site, as Dr. mentioned earlier, that's been a very busy area for us. We've dedicated a deputy to the site for security purposes. During the break, we've had very long lines there, but now that school's back, because we have the more common elementary school there, it's going to be even more congested. So we ask that everybody use patience and caution when they're traveling in the area there of the testing site. So I understand there's also another testing site that opened up in Boynton over in Calusa Park. Hopefully that alleviates some of the traffic there at the South County Civic Center. A crime update, we've had an increase in stolen vehicles. And as I mentioned last week in the meeting, with the vehicle burglaries, all the vehicles were left unlocked. So the same goes with the stolen vehicles. The doors were unlocked and the key fobs were left inside the car as well. So I'll share a quick story with you what I do on a routine basis at home. My wife is horrible about locking the doors on the car at night. So what I do is I grab the key fob and I press the arm button from the inside, and I can hear the beep from inside the home. So I know that the car is armed. So that's a good routine to get a hold of to prevent a potential crime from occurring. So wanted to share that quick little tidbit with everyone. And lastly, a quick update on our Toys for Tot. As a result from our previous meeting, some of the community members stepped up big time and supported the District 4 toy drive, which was incredible. All the toys went to those kids in need in District 4, and it was a direct result from the community involvement. So if you follow PBSO on social media page, on Facebook and Twitter, they posted a bunch of pictures about that, and we're very grateful and thankful for the support from the community with that. In closing, that's it. That's about it. Happy New Year to everyone. Let's get 2022 started in a good way, and hopefully we can see each other in person next month. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We now have the HOA representative from the firefighters, Tony Keeler. Great to see you.
Hey, good morning, Dr. Laurie. So just to start, I'm traveling back from Central Florida. So that's the odd Zoom background is the inside of my wife's car. So Chief Fund is on out. He's at a class up at NFA, working on some stuff. And then pretty much everyone else who would have been able to do this better besides me is in a meeting. So we have another HOA guy up in Gardens and then in Central County as well. So I just want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak. Be really brief. We've had a couple house fires recently, one in West Delray and one in West Boca that were started from some golf cart charging issues. So in those neighborhoods where you have those, just maybe try to talk to your own people and be vigilant on staying on top of the batteries in the golf cart and the charging stations, because things can get pretty dangerous pretty quick. For a firefighter update news within in your area, we had a new class of recruits come out. A lot of them went to Battalion 4. We have 3 more classes scheduled for this year, 2022. The station on White Feather and Les Chalets is moving in the right direction. Hopefully it'll open at the end of this year. And then there's also another spot where they're going to put a trailer in the meantime out in West Delray. I don't have the exact location. I want to say it's Flavor Picks and Lions, somewhere in that area. So that's going to be a lot more people to your area running calls on the people that we all serve, on the people within the Alliance. So that's all been a big positive in the right direction for Chief Duran, trying to get more trucks and more people on the street to help everyone. And so we really need to thank the Alliance and all the people who, vote to support fire rescue and the things that we need, because it's a big undertaking, but without the support of the people within the Alliance, it's something that probably wouldn't normally happen.
Thank you.
Next week, we head really quick, and then I'll be done next week. We head up to Tallahassee for Palm Beach County Days. And we got some things we're working on there for COVID legislation. And also, just so you know, which would be another big plus for Palm Beach County, Chief Duran is working to get us a dedicated USAR team. So when you see tragedies happen around the country and firefighters that are on those teams flock to the area to help. So we're working on some funding from the state to create and have our own team within Palm Beach County. So that's a big deal, and hopefully we can get that taken care of. And again, I apologize for the background and the shaky camera, but I appreciate the time and hope you guys have a great day and had a safe holiday, and moving into 2022, everyone's happy and healthy, and we got some positive things going on.
Thank you so much for that update and for taking the time. Yeah, it's a tough time of year, right? We're going to have Senator Berman now. We have a few elected officials here. We have Senator Berman, Representative Skidmore, Mayor Weinroth, Commissioner Sachs, and School Vice Chair Brill. So we'll hear from everybody, and then we'll go into our main speaker of the day. So go ahead, Senator Berman.
Thanks so much, Laurie. Good morning, Alliance of Delray. Happy, healthy New Year to everyone. Everybody's already talked a little bit about COVID. It's really bad. I just had a breakthrough case. I can't emphasize enough. Make sure that you have your vaccines. Make sure you have your booster. I had a really mild case because I was boosted. So hopefully you all, everybody stay safe. We do have in the special session, we put in place a lot of mandates, which I think are going to hurt us in being able to fight this COVID. We can't have masks in schools for the children anymore. So just do everything in your power to make sure that you stay safe. I'll let Palm Beach County talk a little bit about testing because we're not doing much on the state level, but our county people are stepping up to the plate. So thank you, Mayor Weinroth and Commissioner Sachs for that. So next Tuesday, the 60 most dangerous days in the state of Florida start. No man, woman, or child is safe because we start session and we're going to be doing all the new laws. The number one priority beside the budget, which is always our number one priority this year, is redistricting. So every single map in the state is being redrawn, every state senate, every state house, and every congressional map. We have had some proposals and we will see where we go from there. Hard to say how the maps will end up. The Senate maps were a lot more fairly drawn. They got a B from the nonpartisan groups, and the House maps got an F from the nonpartisan groups. So hopefully we'll lean more toward the Senate maps. Other big issues that I think you'll see this year, hopefully we'll do something in response to Surfside. So you might see something happening about inspections of buildings. Hopefully that will happen. And as many of you know, property insurance has been a tremendous issue. We tried to address it last year. The court reversed one of the things we did in addressing it, having to do with roofers and solicitation. So we'll see what happens this year. So buckle up, get ready, and please watch and pay attention because this is when everything really happens. So happy to represent all of you, and in all the new maps, I still keep Delray. So hopefully I'll still have all of you in the future. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And our members are always very engaged with all of the issues that happen in Tallahassee, and we report on them too. We've got Representative Skidmore. Thank you, Senator Berman. And now we have Representative Skidmore.
Thank you, Dr. Vinocor. Thank you, Senator Berman. We are getting ready, getting prepared to be in Tallahassee for the next 2 months. It seems of my 6 committees, I'll probably be in Tallahassee Monday through Friday this session. So I want to make sure everyone is introduced to my legislative team, my legislative aide, Gwen Gonzalez, and my district aides, Amy Chamberlain and Khadidra Willis. Khadidra and Amy will remain in the district and be here and available for anything you need. Gwen will be in Tallahassee with me, and feel free to call us up there with any types of legislation that you see impacting your communities, any types of legislation that you want us to weigh in on. We're happy to keep our lines of communication open. So just because we are now in Tallahassee, this virtual world has really helped us going forward to stay connected. So we're looking forward to that. As Senator Berman said, redistricting is absolutely weighing heavily on everything. The House maps, the way that the process works is the Senate draws Senate maps and congressional maps, and the House draws House maps and congressional maps. So the House maps are not good for the state of Florida, and we're going to be weighing in heavily on ways that the maps could be drawn more fairly. And using all the tier 1, tier 2 requirements and criteria, the Voting Rights Act, and making sure that there is fair representation for every Floridian, all Floridians in the maps. So that will be a bit of a battle on the House side. I serve as the ranking member on congressional redistricting. We will be working hard to make sure that those maps are fair. There are 6 maps out there right now. As Senator Berman said, not sure exactly where we're going to land on that one. But just know that we are there to make sure that it is fair, and we value your input on all of those maps. The 2 House maps are wildly different in terms of my representation of our communities. So we will wait and see where all of that shakes out with the number of districts in Palm Beach County. And there will be so much legislation that we'll be dealing with. And despite redistricting taking the lead role, it's important, again, that you have your voices heard in terms of community association legislation, property insurance legislation, COVID impacts, and any kinds of changes that we make to the special session COVID legislation that we passed last year, last year now. So lots to be on the lookout for, and we appreciate everything that you provide. Dr. Vinocor, you are a great conduit to your communities. We appreciate that. I think that we put our contact information in the chat if you need us, and we look forward to working with you over the next 60 days to, despite it being a dangerous time, we keep everybody safe.
Thank you very much for attending today. Good luck up in Tallahassee to all of our state officials. We're great. So we now have come to our county elected officials. Great to see you, Mayor Weinroth.
Good morning, Laurie, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so sorry that we are doing this virtually, but obviously with Omicron, we want to all be safe. Again, Happy New Year, everybody. We are going to get through this. We are working very hard at the county to make sure that there are enough testing facilities. Clearly, we are being stretched by Omicron. 3 or 4 weeks ago, we were thinking about closing down some of our sites. Things were quiet. Everybody was very complacent. The Delta variant had pretty much receded. Now we have Omicron, and it's changed the entire outlook. We have a positivity of over 30% in our county right now. It means 1 in 3 people that's being tested has the virus. As Senator Berman said, a lot of people are getting it, and we're seeing that most of those cases are mild. So please, if you haven't gotten vaccinated, please take advantage of the opportunity. Get yourself vaccinated. If you haven't been boosted, consider getting boosted. These are the best ways of staying healthy, even if you do wind up catching the virus. We have established several new sites. But for most importantly, for the people who are watching this program, obviously the South County Civic Center is the most important site to us. That site is open 7 days a week. It's open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., but we generally will close down the line for new people about 5:30 to make sure everybody in line is going to be taken before the site is closed. So please get there early. There are 9 sites that the county is running right now. We opened 3 new sites last week, 1 in the Glades, 1 in Boynton Beach, and 1 in Riviera Beach. Now, to the issue of home testing. Yesterday, the Board of County Commissioners met, and we authorized the county administrator to have an additional $500,000, $500,000 to go and purchase home testing kits. This will be in addition to the kits that the State Department of Health is releasing. We were told that we'll probably get about 45,000 of those kits coming in the next week. We also have heard, obviously, through the federal government, through President Biden, that there will be a federal program for the distribution of home testing kits. So the county is working to try and prime the pump with kits until the state and the federal programs kick in. And with the $500,000 that we authorized to the county administrator, we're hoping that we can have those kits out within the next week. So watch your either email or go online to pbcgov.org, and there'll be information on how to get those kits. They will be distributed. They're not going to be mailed right now. In special circumstances, if you're not able to get to a site where we'll be distributing them, reach out to either Commissioner Sachs or my office, and we will certainly make sure that you get the kits that you need. We are still working very hard as a county commission to make sure that the county continues to move forward. We are working with our delegation in Tallahassee. Many of us will be going up for Palm Beach County Days next week. We've been told that they're going to have a regular session up there. They're not going to keep us away down the street in the convention center. So we're looking forward to visiting with Senator Berman and with Representative Skidmore and our entire delegation. One of the very important topics for us is, of course, building safety. And we're going to be working with the senator and the representative and the entire delegation to see if we can have a statewide procedure for ensuring the safety of our buildings after what happened down in Miami last year. So there's a lot going on, and you heard about the redistricting as far as the Senate, the House, and of course the congressional and the US Senate. The redistricting for the commission went a lot smoother, and we've actually approved our redistricted seats, and you will be getting notified if you are going into a new district. There have been some modest changes, not a lot. You probably heard District 3, which is the district where Commissioner Kerner is currently representing, is going to be changed in a way that's going to make it a majority Hispanic district. There'll be over 50% of the population of that district will be Hispanic. As you know, we have District 7 right now, which is a minority district, and District 3 will be a second minority district. So there'll be some tweaks. If you're going to be in a new precinct, you will get a new card from Supervisor Link. You will know what commission district you're in by the first digit of your precinct. So if you're in District 5 -- you're in District 5. If you're in Precinct 4 -- then you're in District 4. All of that information will be distributed to you by the Supervisor of Elections in the next few months so that you'll have it before the next election. That's basically all I have, and I really hope everybody stays healthy. If you are under the weather, please stay home, get well, and don't be responsible for getting other people sick. And we're looking forward to seeing you in person next month. Thank you so much, Laurie.
Thank you very much, Mayor Weinroth. Thank you so much. That's great news. That's great news. And we have now Commissioner Sachs. Good to see you.
Very good. Hi, everybody, and Happy New Year. I would like to, first of all, thank you, Dr. Vinocor, for putting this together. You know, one of the most important things in these days of COVID-19, Delta, Omicron, who knows what's going to be next, is to be able to adapt. And I know that we were looking forward to an in-person meeting. I want to speak to all the members of the Alliance, but very good, President Vinocor, you were able to adapt and make sure that at least if we can't be in person, we can be together by Zoom. So it's a dance. And as long as we can hear the tune right, we'll be there with you all the way, adapting to our new normal that we have here in South Florida and throughout the country. I'd also like to state that the letter that was written on behalf of the members of the Alliance by Dr. Vinocor was right on point with regard to the issues that are facing all of us with development here in that affect many of us in the Alliance. I know the Alliance represents people from the ocean to the Everglades, but wherever you live here in South Florida, you are affected by the development that goes on in the Ag Reserve. And Dr. Vinocor is extremely knowledgeable when it comes to all the particular issues in the Ag Reserve, which are complicated because this thing has been going on for years, and there's very few people in who represent community organizations that really understand the nuances of the zoning and how the zoning is changing. So stay tuned to when Dr. Vinocor sends out these letters on behalf of the Alliance. They're some of the most knowledgeable letters that we receive in the County Commission. For that reason, I have made sure that Dr. Vinocor, your president, was reappointed to the Land Development Regulatory Advisory Board. That happened yesterday in the County Commission, as well as next week, she will be reappointed to the Solid Waste Authority Citizens Committee. So you are well represented. To the members of the Alliance I'm speaking, you're well represented in all the most important county commissions, county activities that are here that really regulate our zoning and what we do here as a county. And that's very, very important. Next week, we are going to Tallahassee. I look forward to Palm Beach County Days. I was there as your state senator, and I remember hosting the members of the Alliance in my office and recommending a lot of the new legislation that we did in those years. I will be there Sunday through the week of next week, speaking with many of our committee chairs and heads of departments. One department that is very important for all of us in the Alliance is the Florida Department of Transportation. My office has made an appointment with the FDOT to discuss, and this is important, I want you to listen up, as they say, to discuss issues of traffic, to discuss issues of widening of roads, state roads, such as 441 and Atlantic Avenue. Any of these glades, any of these issues that you want to be heard, be sure you contact my office, or you can contact Dr. Vinocor and she'll get it to me because I'm meeting with Florida Department of Transportation and I'm bringing up our staff reports from county engineers that discuss these issues that of development here in the Ag Reserve that the FDOT needs to be aware of before any new development comes around. I'll also be meeting with the Department of Veteran Affairs in Tallahassee. As you know, every year I passed a law with others to help our veterans. And one of those laws gave every veteran a V on their license, driver's license, and that would get them into state parks free, as well as discounts in many of our department stores. So before we plan any more veterans events here in the county, I want to speak with the head of the Department of Veteran Affairs in Tallahassee and see what else we can do, possibly get one of their staff members to come down. Many of us here, many of the folks here in this area, you can't find your papers from when you were in, this could be the Korean War, Vietnam War, maybe during the Afghan conflict. And they are able to access your veterans, your military background that would give you that benefit. So many benefits are available to our veterans, and I want to make sure that we take advantage of them. And lastly, I'll be meeting with the Dr. Terry Coonan from Florida State University, who heads the School Against Human Trafficking. This is an issue that I worked on for years in the legislature. We passed many laws. I want to say that Ann Gannon was a state rep that started, that helped to write the first law against human trafficking in the year 2000. Since then, many of us have filed and passed many laws against human trafficking. This is Human Trafficking Month. And if anybody would like to have a lecture on human trafficking, I'll be more than happy to do that, either virtually or in person, as well as to bring some members. I was on the gubernatorial council against human trafficking. We can bring in some law enforcement folks there as well to enlighten all of us about this, the #1 cash crime in the world of human trafficking. So, and to close, yes, yesterday, we got 45,000 new testing kits that will be handed out here in the county. That will be free to everyone. There is more coming. There are more testing kits coming. It's very important that we make sure that everybody here in our area of Reliance is free and ready to go. That's my phone. So anyways, thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Vinocor, and your whole executive staff for making this possible and keeping us all informed. As we adapt to these new issues, these new variants, it's important that we all stay informed and stay safe and stay connected. Thank you. Happy New Year. And let's all stay safe.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Commissioner. And we have our school board vice chair, Karen Brill, and before our keynote speaker who is waiting patiently, Joshua Gerstin, and we have our school board vice chair, Karen Brill. Great to see you. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you so much. And I just want to start off by saying that I will make my comments very brief. First and foremost, Happy New Year to everyone. School is officially back in session today, and we are doing everything we can to mitigate the spread of COVID. And we're also struggling with very, very high absenteeism in all areas this morning. Our hands have been tied with regard to mandating masks for students, as Senator Berman mentioned. However, we are encouraging vaccinations. We're encouraging social distancing. Actually, in the schools, it's a requirement. Masks for all of our adults are mandated, but we are also encouraging them for our students, and staying home if ill. Also, our school nurses are able to provide testing for our students who have a letter on file from their parents. And we are working on an arrangement to also be able to test our employees. Our biggest concern over the past few months has been with transportation. We've had a shortage of bus drivers that has been further mitigated by this rapid spread of COVID. And so you'll hear more about this from me in the coming months. But right now, we are visiting each of our transportation depots and seeing what we can do to work with our drivers and to hire more drivers. And finally, the school board has completed its redistricting. I'm happy to say that my district basically remains the same, and I look forward to continuing to represent all of you. So with that, I will close, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you in person next month.
Well, thank you very much for attending. And it's always important to hear about school issues because our membership is very concerned about the education of the future generations. Thank you so much for attending. Right now, we have our very own Joshua Gerson, he of Gerson and Associates. He practically needs no introduction. He is the Alliance's attorney, and he also does represent many of the homeowner associations and condominium associations in our membership. Well, he gave a course last month for board certification, and he will. We may have another one next month. People, if enough people do request that, write to me, write to the Alliance of Delray at bellsouth.net, or you have my phone number. It's always available on the emails. If you would like to have another board certification course, if we have enough people, we'll hold another one next month. Thank you so much for attending. Joshua Gerstin, and he can now share the screen if you'd like, and you can go ahead and have this very important presentation.
Great, thank you, Laurie. Thank you for the thank you to the Alliance for having me, and Happy New Year to everyone. I hope everyone is healthy and safe, and looking forward to a great 2022. When Laurie contacted me, she asked for a seminar on COVID leadership and legislative changes, and what I told Laurie is that there's a lot of stuff out there. So I tried to condense it today the best I possibly can. And I will also show you a way that you can get more resources. Just for today, remember that nobody can remember everything. Nobody expects you to remember everything. Your job as a director or a participant within your community association is to be an issue spotter. From this seminar, I would like you to take back just remembering the issues that I'm talking about, because when you remember the issues, then you can delegate finding out the solution to those issues to the proper people. It's not a hands-on situation. No one expects you to become a lawyer. It's issue spotting is the key to being an effective director. Now, if you'd like to have, raise your hand or ask questions or anything else like that, feel free to do so. And then during a natural sort of lull, I'll look over and see if there's any questions that need to be answered. More than happy to answer any questions. Now, like I said, I will not be able to get to everything. So I would like you to just understand that if you go to gerstin.com and on the top right, you will see various items. So let me just stop this here quickly, and then I'm going to share here the, just so you can see it. Okay, so here's my website. Here is today's presentation, okay? Here is the full Community Association legislative update. And right here is the full top 10 most pressing community issues. I'm going over 5 legislative updates. I'm going over 5 pressing issues. And here's everything all that I'm going over today, right there. Okay, just click on it. If you have any problems, you could always contact my office. Not a big deal, happy to help. You could also give me a nice review if you like my presentation. So the 5 most pressing issues. The first one is aging infrastructure. And I know that you're wondering, what does that have to do with COVID? Well, I can tell you that if you have a condominium association, and this one little item mostly applies to condos, you'll know that if you're trying to schedule any major repairs, you can't find workers, you can't find materials. So COVID is definitely slowing down the ability of associations to keep their infrastructure in place properly and safely. Now, Surfside pulled a lot of things forward, and Senator Berman was talking about potential legislative issues. Broward, Miami, Palm Beach County, they are all trying to think of ways to enhance the inspections. And that's great. That might help, may not help. Frankly, in my own opinion, we have all the laws there, and you just need the boards to levy assessments and move forward. That said, even though these legislatures are working on various fixes, Freddie Mac, which is the Federal Home Loan Mortgage Corporation, on December 16th, issued a regulation for condominiums and co-ops. These new regulations were expressly promulgated based on the Surfside tragedy. And this is the way it's going to be from now on. Units in condominiums with critical repair needs will not be Freddie Mac eligible. Even if the work is funded, and even if the association is diligent with the work and the work is started already, if there's critical repair needs, the deals will not be funded. Engineering reports will likely be needed to show Freddie Mac that whatever work you were working on has been completed. There's a new questionnaire consisting of 5 pages that need to be completed by association or management, and probably in conjunction with your attorney. Because these questionnaires require interpretation of documents, disclosure of litigation, evaluations of units. And this goes into effect as of February 22nd, 2022. Like many government regulations, this regulation is supposed to be temporary, but there's no end date. So what do? Get my presentation, you click here for the Freddie Mac regulations, you click here for the anticipated condominium questionnaire, and you'll be ahead of the game. If you could start working on these items now, when you get an estoppel request with this questionnaire, you will be ready and you will not be slowing down closings. A lot of associations are experiencing a ton of closings with the high real estate values that are being attributed. So you do not want to have a backlog. You want to make sure you can get fully funded. For associations that are considering, maybe we should do repairs this year, maybe we should do repairs next year, you need to get on the horse, so to speak, and start doing these repairs now. Because again, pending critical repairs to your condominium association will cause a denial of a Freddie Mac loan. And just for clarification, I'm talking about buyers into your association. So if you could only imagine, if your condominium is flagged by Freddie Mac, the values of your individual units will plummet. because banks won't lend if Freddie Mac is not willing to guarantee. Okay, item number 2, Zoom meetings for members and directors. Everybody sort of loves Zoom. It was great at the beginning. Now it's a little bit burdensome, but it is a fantastic way for associations to communicate with members. The associations were easily able to do it during the initial stages of the pandemic because Governor DeSantis issued an emergency declaration that allowed associations to do things with not as many formalities, so to speak. So what can associations do? Well, associations can always allow members to watch an annual meeting via video conferencing. That's a good thing to do. You can put them on mute, and then if there's a new business part, you can unmute them. It's fairly easy to do. However, if you want to now look at the audience that's online Zoom and start counting them as a quorum, okay, so it's people not in attendance, people on Zoom, you're going to most likely need to change your declaration and bylaws. If you just continue to go about your member meetings and counting the members on Zoom without that being allowed in your declaration of bylaws, that meeting is invalid. That quorum does not count. As far as board meetings, what a great way to have a board member participate who's feeling ill, may not be out of town. I have a lot of associations where there's part-time boards. Half the year is spent in Canada, and the other half is spent in Palm Beach County. And it's very hard for them to meet. This is a great way for them to meet and conduct business. Usually they condense everything into half a year or 4 months, and things don't run as good as they should or not as efficient. So what do? You can have the board meeting, but you still need to have a quorum of board members. And the quorum of board members in attendance means in attendance unless you change your governing documents. I strongly recommend against having the entire board Zoom and counting that as a quorum. I do recommend, though, looking at your governing documents and determining how do we make it so that we have maybe a quorum of members, board members that can attend via Zoom, and the rest can also attend live. You can have in your declaration or bylaws that the board members attending via Zoom can also vote. But again, if it's not in the declaration and bylaws, now that the governor's emergency declaration is over, it's not as simple to have board and member meetings and participation in those board and member meetings through Zoom, but it can be done. Okay, the great issue number 3 is the great Yankee migration. Actually, I see a question here. What about HOA reg? We are getting to HOAs. Some of these apply to HOAs. Some of these apply to condominiums. Zoom meeting for members and directors applies to HOAs. The federal regulations don't. The great Yankee migration, issue number 3, applies to both condominiums and HOAs. What is the great Yankee migration? It's something I'm guilty of 25 years ago, is coming down here from New York City and staying. That's what a excuse my French, a damn Yankee is, as somebody from up north that actually stays down here. They're not just here on vacation. We're seeing it. There's nothing that can be avoided, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. However, what I've noticed time and time again with many of my community associations is that they come to me with a particular lease issue. And they're like, oh, we denied this lease, or we denied this sale, and we got a lawyer's letter. So can you look at it? And I look at it, and then I look at their governing documents, and I talk to the client. I say, how long have you been enforcing, lease restrictions or denying people the ability to purchase? Oh, I don't know, for as long as I've been here, 10 years, what have you. You look in their governing documents, there's no leasing restrictions in there. There's no sales restrictions in there. So what I'm telling you is, because this happens time and time again, please check your governing documents. If you do not have leasing restrictions and you do not have sales restrictions, you can't be checking people's backgrounds, checking people's credit, and then deciding, hey, I don't want them. If these guidelines or restrictions are not specifically in your governing documents, you cannot restrict people regardless of what your background check, which you weren't supposed to do, comes up with, including felonies. Again, if the rules aren't defined in your governing documents, you cannot restrict. Okay. Keep in mind also that the fair housing complaints, if you have a fair housing complaint and you are telling somebody they can't come into your association, whether it's a lease or a sale, okay, and they file a complaint, that's a fair housing complaint. A lot of insurance companies for associations do not cover those because they're considered intentional discrimination. You might find yourself with a complaint and a lawsuit that the association has to pay for out of pocket. Please check your governing documents. If you cannot deny somebody, don't do it. Instead, go to your lawyer, figure out how you can amend your documents. Next item is running a home-based business and community associations. And this has to do with HOAs and condos as well. The pandemic pulled forward a trend of many people running home businesses or working from home. People that work from home, typically not a problem. They don't have clients or customers. Home-based businesses is different. If you have no governing document restrictions, then you can't restrict against any activity that is not a nuisance. So even if you might see somebody occasionally have a client come into their home, or occasionally they'll have FedEx drop off a bunch of packages or a couple times a day, if you don't have regulations in your governing documents regarding working from home or running home businesses, you cannot enforce against them. And what happens is you have a lot of people that are having these home businesses, they'll get approval from Palm Beach County and they'll say, I have approval, you can't do anything. And if you don't have it in your governing documents, you can't. But if you do have it in your governing documents, you can. Approval from the county or the city is not the end all be all. The next step is the governing documents of your association. You have to be careful though, because the association may come into a problem if they regulate it too strictly. You want to make sure that you allow people to work from home, and you can even foster that. You could have a little business executive suite type setup in your clubhouse. I've had that where there's a fax machine available, there's video conferencing available, nothing too big, but something good. It helps with property values for the association at large. However, if you're very tight, okay, and you're constantly, badgering people regarding this, word gets around. People do want to work from home. Get reasonable guidelines into your governing documents. Your property values will increase, and everyone will be somewhat happy. I see another question here. Let's see. Oh, that's just a comment. Okay, well, thank you for your comment. That was nice. Pets, and more pets. The final issue with the pandemic are all the people that purchased pets. And a lot of these people, I don't blame them, were locked in, wanted company. But if they were living alone probably before and didn't have a pet, now just suddenly getting a pet, it leaves a lot of people with pets they may not know how to handle once they leave the home. And that's what I'm finding now, is that once people are leaving to go to work, the pets that they adopted or purchased or what have you don't know what it's like to be alone. And they're just causing a lot of havoc in associations, continual barking, continual, chasing other dogs, doing things that pets should not be doing. However, you have to keep in mind that if you, like other things, don't have pets and pet restrictions in your governing documents, you cannot enforce against them. That includes the barking, the incessant whining, and other things that go on that might aggravate people, but not necessarily a nuisance. You need to get those rules in there. You also might come up with a situation where the dog that was adopted by the owner is too big, or you have a no pet community. What do you do then? Well, as we all know, it's very difficult dealing with emotional support animals, but most likely that's what you're going to hear back from the member. Oh, here's a doctor's note, here's this, here's that. I need this emotional support animal. And it's hard to deny those. And most oftentimes, regardless of the size of the dog, and it's a no pet community, you would have to allow that dog to have a valid doctor's note, but not all the times. If you have the proper rules in place, you can weed out, thanks to a new Florida law, you can weed out certain people that are just going online, getting doctor's notes, never saw the doctor before, and are submitting that as their emotional support pet. So like the other items I mentioned, it's time to look at your governing documents. Do you have a protocol set up for emotional support animals? Do you have a protocol set up for animals that are not well trained when the owner is not in the unit? If you don't, now's the time to do it. Okay. Let me see here. Now we're going on to the top 5 legislative changes for 2022. Condos and HOAs. This is one of the most important items. I think maybe because of the pandemic, it didn't get as much, it wasn't as well known, as much publicity as other legislative changes that seem to come down the pike. This one here, condos and HOAs, bottom line is a mandatory statutory letter. Okay, the verbiage of the letter is right in the statute. And it says you have to send out this letter and give the owner 30 days notice to pay. Or if you send that owner to collection and you didn't send that notice, the association cannot collect attorney's fees. Again, you have to send a 30-day mandatory notice. And if you don't, the association cannot collect attorney's fees if collection moves forward and you have to retain your attorney. I have associations who maybe do not put a late fee on a owner who's delinquent for 30 days. So if they first put the late fee on in 30 days, now they're sending them this other 30-day notice, they could be looking at 60 days. I can tell you that if an association owner is not paying their assessments, most likely they're not paying their mortgage. And the association has to get paid because the mortgage forecloses, the association may get wiped out or get less. Therefore, associations with these 30-day delays already in their governing documents might want to consider sending out their 30-day notices at the same time that, or send out these notices before your 30-day notices, or do them in conjunction with each other. So those original notices that you have aren't extended by this 30-day notice required by law. Okay, that is really a key thing. You don't want your original requirements to now be extended because the legislature says you have to send out this 30 days notice. Okay. COVID immunity. I'm hearing from a lot of my community associations asking me, hey, can I close the clubhouse? Can I reinstitute some rules back from COVID days? We're afraid of being, having people get sick, and I have others saying, hey, I want to keep it open, and that's it. That's what we're going to do. If you decide to keep your clubhouse or other common areas and elements open, you have to follow CDC guidelines. It's not a matter of having these facilities open and everybody have a free-for-all. You do need to follow CDC guidelines. If you go online and you go to cdc.gov, they have fantastic tutorials. They break it down of what your clubhouse might need, what your pool might need. Once you follow these guidelines by the CDC, you will be immune from a lawsuit if an owner contracts or alleges they contracted COVID at your facility. So there's not necessarily a strong need for you to close down these communities or these clubhouses at this moment if you don't feel like you have a population that may really suffer, maybe an elderly population or a high disabled population from coronavirus. You might want to consider maybe limited hours, making sure you follow the rules, and then understand that you'll have the COVID immunity. Each individual association has to look sort of at their own demographic and figure out what works best for them. However, again, even if you decide to open up after this whole COVID wave comes out, as long as COVID is still around, you should continue to follow the CDC guidelines so that you as an association are immune from lawsuit. You could avail yourself of this law from the Florida legislature. I also recommend still using waivers and hold harmless agreements just as a belt and suspenders approach. So if you had those from pre-COVID or the initial stages of COVID, pull them back out. I recommend making sure anybody that uses your common areas or common elements has a waiver in place. Okay, electric vehicles. This is condominiums only. I'm sorry for my HOA people, but the legislature didn't assign this yet to HOAs. So, used to be that if you had an electric vehicle and your condominium association said, hey, maybe we'll have some charging stations, we'll get rid of this piece of grass or this picnic area, we'll put 5 charging stations there. That was considered a material alteration. And as condominium directors know, you need 75% of the owners to approve that. Well, now with the new Florida law, you do not need owner approval for installing a vehicle charging station or a natural gas fuel stations. I haven't had any associations inquire about natural gas fuel stations, but they must have had a good lobbying group and now they're in there. So it is not considered a material alteration for an EV charging station or a natural gas fuel station on common elements. And the association can charge the owners for using the station. Now, I had one association say, wow, that will be a great source of revenue. I strongly recommend against making it a true for-profit type situation. What you should do is look at market rates, charge what the market charges. If you happen to make a profit, you make a profit. You definitely don't want to be at a loss, right? You don't want the other owners to have to pay, but really trying to sort of squeeze out a profit may hurt your tax status. And it's just not the way that people would envision a common element open to the members to be used. So again, market prices are great, and you don't have to go into a deficit by getting an EV station or a natural gas fuel station installed. Okay, real estate sales in COVID-19. This is condominiums only. Again, the legislature did not yet assign this to homeowners associations, but a word to the wise, anyone that's been around the block a few times knows that it won't be long. It won't be long until this gets applied to HOAs. It gets started with condos, and just like a lot of things legislatively, the legislation just grows and then it gets applied to HOAs. An example of that is how we saw the condo regulations regarding limiting rentals. Everyone had to approve. The ones who didn't approve don't have to abide by it. That's the same way now at HOAs. So everything here that I'm talking about, I think it's a safe bet to say 5 years, 2 years, 1 year, they will apply to HOAs as well. For now, condos only, real estate sales in COVID-19. During the pandemic, many associations said no open houses. We're not going to allow you to show apartments to the public coming in. And I agreed with that because you just didn't know at the time. But now the real estate agent lobby fought back. And whenever there's an emergency, you can basically shut down almost everything except one thing. And that is a real estate agent trampling into your common areas elements to go to a unit to show it to the public. So again, emergency powers can no longer be applied to stop somebody from viewing a unit that is for sale, or of course, prohibiting access to those people to do so. Okay, this is for, and this is, I just sort of briefly mentioned this, leasing restrictions, HOAs only. This is for HOAs only. Sorry to my condominium people, but this also already applies to you guys. Similar to condominiums now, HOAs, if I've had HOAs on the fence for years telling me, oh, we want to pass rental amendments, we don't want to pass rental amendments, we don't know what to do. It's a little bit late now, because if you pass a rental amendment, okay, that regulates rentals to terms of less than 6 months, or seeks to limit rentals to no more than 3 times a year, not only do you need member approval, but the members that do not approve do not have to abide by this. Again, with HOAs, if you're passing leasing restrictions, the members that do not approve do not have to abide by this, and they only are encumbered by this restriction when they sell their home. Okay, so just keep that in mind. You want to make sure you have accurate records so you know which homes are selling that the leasing restriction now applies to, as well as which existing homes it applies to as well. Oh, a bonus issue, This is just for the Alliance. I decided to add a bonus. HOAs only, again, and it's reserves. Here's the deal with reserves. And because I keep having a lot of associations come to me, and they have a pot of money that they've been calling reserves for, I don't know, for 10 years, 15 years. They might even call it something like a painting reserve, you know, or a paving reserve, and it's HOAs. Here's the deal. That most likely is not a true reserve. If the governing documents didn't anticipate reserves from the developer, or the members didn't approve by a majority vote at a members meeting for that reserve item, it's not a statutory reserve. It's more of a surplus fund. And I suggested you immediately rename it. Statutory reserves have to be fully funded. There's a lot of laws governing statutory reserves, what the money can be used for. Surplus funds that are mislabeled, that aren't actually reserves, can be used for anything. And it gives the association more flexibility. So before you start calling things reserves, if they're not in your governing documents as reserves, according to this new Florida law, or the members at some point in time in the past never passed this item as a reserve item, then according to this new law, it is not a reserve item, and those funds can be used any way the association wants. Okay, so that's it. So that's the conclusion. I am repeating right here how to go onto my website so that you can see the various presentations in full. There are probably about 20 more legislative changes that are in that item, that report I showed you on my website. And there's at least 5 or 6 more COVID issues that I put into the COVID presentation on the website as well. If you liked it, please give me a 5-star review. If you didn't, send me a tiny, tiny little note, just put it in the mail. I'll make sure to address it. But right now, I'm more than happy to take questions. I see I got a question here.
Yeah. Can you stop the screen sharing?
Oh yeah, I'll stop the screen sharing
so we can
my
see
lovely
you.
face.
So we can
Okay.
see you. Great, great. And there's a question there.
Okay, I see one here from a member. Examples of statutory reserves. So let me give you an example in condominiums first. Condominiums, the statutory reserves are the ones that are required by statute, which is painting, is paving, and any item above, I think it's like $10,000 or a certain percentage of your budget. Those are the statutory mandatory reserves. Or with an HOA, a statutory reserve is any reserve that the developer in the governing documents set up, established, or one in which a majority of the members at a meeting voted for that reserve item. So condominiums, statutory reserves are right in the actual statute, the painting, paving, things like that. There's 5 or 6 listed. With HOAs, it's not statutory unless the developer put it in the governing documents or the members voted for it at a meeting. Okay, are there any laws about attic storage that has a sprinkler system in it? Not that I am aware of. I'm not aware of any laws about attic storage that has a sprinkler system in it at all. Okay. Any other questions? Anything else there? Now you have my email address, you have everything, my phone number. You can feel free to email me, call me. I get back to everybody typically within 24 hours. So don't hesitate. Email's easiest for me, but whichever way you'd like, it'd be a pleasure. So don't hesitate.
Thank you so much for this presentation.
Thank you.
And everyone did receive by email the link to the actual presentation today,
Perfect.
The handout, and they will know how to get in touch with you.
Great.
Thank you so much for all this. And thanks to also to my co-host, Paul Finkelstein, who assisted with this program today. It was a wonderful meeting. More people, Joshua Gerstin draws a crowd because all of this is such important information. So we are now going to end the meeting. We will see you next month, hopefully. Hi, Mike and Katie, always saying nice things, and we'll see you hopefully, Mike and Katie, and the rest of our membership next month at the Civic Center. We're still planning to go back there. So, because it is open, masks are mandatory right now, but unless you're eating. So we will have bagels, coffee, and tea. But and the Civic Center is open.
Just keep eating. That's all.
That's right. That's right. The Civic Center will be is open, and probably the lines will be a lot shorter, or maybe they will disappear next month. So see you next month, and we're going to have our property appraiser, Dorothy Jacks. She'll be speaking, and of course, our elected officials will be visiting. Thank you so much again, Joshua Gerstin.
Thank you. Be well,
Great to
everybody.
see
Happy
you.
New Year.
Okay, and remember, everybody, write me an email if you do want another course for board certification, and he'll be happy to do it. We run it at 6 o'clock at night by Zoom. So it is a convenient time, mostly for most everybody. We're going to end the meeting now. See you all next month.